Good to have you here. So
It's great to be here.
it's good to see you again. You've been so let's see, you were in Baltimore this week. We had a big conference that was in town.
The annual American Society for Cell and Gene Therapy.
All right. So it was a big party.
8 to 10,000 people.
All your closest friends. Well, we appreciate you making it. For everybody, this is our second video together. You and I have done a couple of presentations for some groups, but this will be the second time that we are together. This is, really an update from our first video about a year ago. You were in my office at that time, and now you're in my home. So we're getting closer, as it were. But I wanted to, first and foremost, thank all of our supporters and donors. A lot of what we're going to talk about today is a result of those donations. And, today was really just a kind of a conversation for us to talk about some of the progress that's been made in the last year. And then I think even more excitingly, kind of the direction that we're going in.
Yeah,
So,
great.
all right, should we get started?
Let's do it.
Okay. All right. I think first I'm gonna cheat here and use my notes. But I think first I would love to just, if we could, just because it's been a little while, just maybe a short refresher on what the research is, a little bit about CRISPR and why we're using that for the DMD BMD research that we're doing.
Sure. Okay, so let's put it all in context. 1 in 10 or 1 in 11 people will have a genetic disease.
Yep.
These are caused by single changes or changes in the DNA. That can result in basically 7 to 10,000 different genetic diseases. As a whole is what that number represents.
But I mean the 1 out of 10, that's what that number represents. Yeah. So common, but then you subdivide it, and it's obviously a whole array of different conditions that can exist underneath that, from mild to severe.
Exactly, yeah. And any number of diseases and the severity and things like that, right? There's so many changes. And all it takes is a single change, a single base in the DNA to cause one of those diseases. What if we could correct that? What if we could change that? That's what CRISPR allows us to do. So for the first time, we are able to go in and fix that change or make that change. And that's essentially what the technology allows us to do.
Yep. So specifically for BMD and DMD, when we're talking about CRISPR, DMD is one of the largest areas of the human DNA strand, right? And so, and obviously, DMD and BMD can be absolutely catastrophic diseases. CRISPR will allow us to fundamentally correct to some degree and significantly change the direction of the disease, correct?
Absolutely. So the potential is absolutely enormous. As you stated, the disease is a really devastating disease. Affects about 1 in 3,500 to 1 in 5,000 boys would be DMD. It's a little bit harder to know what those numbers, the precise numbers are for BMD, but much bigger.
Right.
So what we can now do is, and the other thing that you mentioned is absolutely correct too. DMD is a really large gene, one of the largest in the genome. And if you think about that, that actually means that there's a lot of places where something can go wrong.
Right.
So there's a lot of different types of mutations. There's thousands and thousands of different things that can lead to DMD or BMD. But the gene is actually interesting, and it has properties that allow us to correct large fractions of patients with a small number of different products. So even if there's 10,000 different mutations, we don't need 10,000 treatments, one treatment for every mutation. In fact, if we have about 6 to 9 therapeutics, we could capture probably close to 90%
Yes.
of all DMD patients. And then obviously a similar number for BMD.
So as I understand it, the major difference here as well is that CRISPR effectively creates a platform so that basically 99.9, let's call it percent of the research is replicable across multiple mutations or changes in that genome versus small molecule science, which is really looking for a needle in a needle stack, so to speak. So this is a very different approach and why there's so much promise in it.
Totally. So the traditional like aspirin type of small molecule world that we've had for the last 120 or so years is like that, where it is one, we need to find that needle in the haystack, and that needle may not exist in the haystack.
Right.
With genetic medicines like CRISPR, what you're talking about, uh, the fact that it's in our genomes and we know that this problem is caused by this, we know exactly what we need to do to fix it.
Right.
And then the other thing about CRISPR that makes it really this platform, as you were mentioning, is that the vast majority of it doesn't change. And all we have to do is essentially tell that where that problem exists.
Yep.
And that's a small, percentage of the entire thing. And then what you can do is you can imagine, well, if there is a specific mutation, you have that little, small percentage tells it, we design that to go after that mutation. If there's a different mutation, then we just change that slightly, and that makes this platform unbelievably powerful.
Right.
It's based off of the DNA, and we know what causes the problem, and we know how to fix it.